right, so the Biden administration was recently exposed and shamed into redacting a previous decision that they had made to appeal a victory by a student loan borrower. So before I really get into this, I'll just give you a quick overview of the situation. So on January the 14th, and by the way, this was brought to us by David Sirota in his publication. They posted they do amazing things in tracking this sort of behavior, not just from our government, but from different corporations and entities and what have you. But on January 14th, a federal judge in Biden's home state of Delaware moved to eliminate nearly $100,000 in student loan debt held by a 35-year-old epileptic man. In response, the Justice Department filed a notice of appeal in the case on behalf of Education Secretary Miguel Cardona. What a great Secretary of Education there. If Biden officials now follow through with a fully formed appeal, they would not only be aiming to keep this man overwhelmed with debt, but also moving to solidify a legal interpretation that could preclude even the most beleaguered student debtors from getting relief through bankruptcy courts. Now, to just give you a bit of backstory on that individual, of course, I just read out that he had around $100,000 in student debt. But after he graduated college, he had trouble finding jobs. He was employed like full time with like Uber, Grubhub, and I believe one other employer and what have you. And one day while he was driving, he had a seizure and he totaled his car, and he never really found full employment. And the only way he was able to survive was by heavy financial assistance from his father. And he was just really beat up, and this guy was barely making it through, and he had all this money in debt, and it was crushing him. And you get the story, you get the picture. And so he came before a judge, and the judge was ready and pretty much, wiped his student loan debt clean. She just wiped it out, and the Biden administration stepped in and said, no, he has to pay that back. Just think about it. Let that sit in for a second. Let that sit in for a second. Why would they do that? Ask yourself why and ponder about that. But this is a different article from the Daily Poster that tells us the following. Biden withdrawing student debt appeal after outcry. Let's see what this article has to say. The Biden administration is abruptly withdrawing its attempt to block a major court ruling that could protect student loan borrowers. According to a news statement provided to the Daily Poster, the announcement comes 48 hours after the Daily Poster broke the news that the administration had moved to appeal the ruling, which could help the poorest borrowers who are being bankrupted by education debt. The January 28 notice of appeal will soon be withdrawn, the Department of Education spokesman said in a statement. The Department of Education has indicated publicly that it is reviewing current bankruptcy policies, a process which remains ongoing. While the student loan payment pause remains in effect, any borrower in an adversary bankruptcy proceeding can request and receive a stay on their proceedings. Following the statement to the Daily Poster, Under Secretary of Education James Cavall tweeted Friday morning, "We will withdraw the appeal in the Wolfson bankruptcy case and review how we handle future claims." On Wednesday, the Daily Post first reported that the administration had moved to appeal a Delaware court ruling that eliminated nearly $100,000 in student loan debt for a borrower. The borrower, a 35-year-old epileptic man, had won a rare victory in a bankruptcy system that is rigged against student loan borrowers. The story, which was part of our ongoing coverage of student debt, was quickly picked up by other news outlets. If the administration had won on appeal, it could have fortified a legal precedent precluding many borrowers from their student loan having their student loans reduced or eliminating through bankruptcy courts. So this is amazing here, and it's amazing for several reasons. The first, it's the obvious one. Joe Biden himself is actually the reason, if not one of the main reasons, why student loan borrowers can't declare bankruptcy on their student loans today, or the fact that it's incredibly difficult to do so. He's the reason for that. He played a very exponential role in fighting for that to be the case. And Elizabeth Warren, if you may remember, was a staunch critic of his antics and his behavior towards this specific issue. And it's incredible because on the campaign trail, it's just flat out lies is what it is, but he spoke the game of actually helping out student borrowers. People, they like to bring up the fact that he said that he would get rid of at least $10,000 of student loan debt. But he said something that went far beyond that. He tweeted this, I believe it was late in 2020, I believe it was. He tweeted out, I believe it was $125,000. Anybody making under that amount would have their student loan debt wiped clean. something to that effect. It was something vast and monumental, he said. And now you don't hear a peep about it. And when asked about it, Jen Psaki, the elitist, she's like, oh, I'm sure he'd sign something if it went through Congress, but it's not going to get through Congress. And they obfuscate and avoid answering questions about his executive authority to do so, because they know that those people aren't idiots. They know that he has the executive authority to get rid of student loan debt. We know that he does. More Perfect Union and the Debt Collective have told us time and time again that he does, through incredibly intelligent people that are up to date on this stuff. I played the video on my channel like what seems like 1,000 times of how the president of the United States can get rid of student loan debt. To put it very blatantly here, the vast majority, and I need to remind you, it's what is it, 1.7 trillion now dollars in student loan debt. It's in a crazy crisis, but the vast majority of that money is held by the federal government. It's basically as simple as the federal government saying, hey, all you people that owe us money, it's okay. We're going to get rid of it. It's fine. And so what happens as a result of it? Well, the people that are now burdened by the debt that they owe can finally get that car or move into that house or apartment or get married or have kids or do things that they aren't financially able to do at the moment because of all this debt that they have. And that goes for any other kind of debt: mortgage debt, car debt, credit card debt. You know, this is a debt country. The people of this country are plagued by debt, and they can't shoulder any more of it. And you're seeing a particular sector of it here with the student loan borrowers that are outraged and calling for change here. But what I really want to circle in on is the fact that they got shamed into retracting that appeal. They got shamed. That article basically went viral on social media, and people were outraged. They're like, what are you doing? This is an epileptic man. He has $100,000 in debt. I told you his story. He had a seizure while he was driving. He totaled his car. The only way he's able to survive is from heavy financial assistance from his father. He's been beat down. He can't really reach full employment. But you want to force him to pay $100,000? And if you know how student debt or any kind of debt works, but we're talking about student debt here, the interest rate on this debt, I mean, you can't pay off that. He can't. I mean, the vast majority of debtors can't pay off that debt. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. But moral of the story here is shaming works. And I mean, look, bro, shame these people into oblivion over anything that you think is unjust, as this obviously was. I mean, they got shamed and they retracted their decision. So let's shame them into doing what they need to do and getting rid of all of it. There's no reason as to why something like that shouldn't occur. I've been through it many times here, and I've made several videos about it, and I kind of feel like a broken record, but it has to be stated over and over and over again until it happens and we see the change that we want. Because, I mean, it's ever so relevant in today's society. And once again, it's hurting quite literally millions of people, exactly 43 to 45 million, somewhere around that range. That's how many borrowers hold that $1.7 trillion lump sum of debt. But here is the Biden administration being incredibly sleazy. And here is the poster and the people that contribute to that publication, exposing them, and the people at large shaming them and making a pretty obvious decision that they should have made in the first place.